Hey makers, Kevin Osborne from baldwisdom.com. Today I'm going to tell you how I feel about using the Ultimaker 3 after almost a year. And spoiler alert, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I've been 3D printing for over 5 years, most of that time with the Ultimaker 2, and while it hasn't always been easy, the love really hasn't faded. It's a fantastic printer, very easy to use, excellent quality. And so when the Ultimaker 3 came out, I was very excited, mostly about the ability to print with removable supports. But also they made some other changes like all metal print cores so that you could print with higher temperature materials such as polycarbonate. And the basic mechanical movements hadn't really changed, so I expected that the quality would at least remain the same, if not get better. I was somewhat excited about auto leveling. They did add auto leveling, although it never really was a problem with the Ultimaker 2 because once you had it leveled, you basically never had to touch it. And it was pretty easy to level. So I did also realize, though, that the Ultimaker 3 was targeted at a different audience than me. It was really targeted at a business user who just wanted to plug it in and use it. So I expected that it wouldn't be as easy to tinker with as the Ultimaker 2. What I like, the Ultimaker 2 is a great printer. It has the same very high quality. The build quality is very good. They've made quite a few improvements. The two material support is fantastic. The alignment is very easy for the two heads, so it's very easy to print in two materials, especially support material. Initially, your only choice was PVA, which I don't love because it sucks water out of the air and makes it hard to print, but it also is really messy to clean up. But since they've come out with the breakaway support material, it's fantastic. They have better bed clips, which makes it a lot easier to remove the glass build plate, and have different build plates with different surfaces on them. And that makes it possible to do that without cutting yourself to pieces. The Ultimaker 2 bed clips were notorious for causing injury. So kudos to Ultimaker for that. The material handling's more flexible. Not much change since the Ultimaker 2 Plus. They use the same feeders, but it does allow you to feed flexible filament, for example. And I've been able to actually print hard hubs with PLA with soft tires and things like that. So it's really great. The feeding is super reliable. I can't complain about that at all. What I miss, the ability to change nozzles. So on the Ultimaker 2 Plus, and before that as an upgrade, you could get the Olsen block for the Ultimaker 2, and that allowed you to change the nozzles. You could use a big nozzle for really fast printing, or you could use a really fine nozzle. I love the big nozzles for fast printing. And also, if the nozzle clogged, you could take it out, swap a new nozzle in, you're right back up right away. You didn't have to worry about that. With the 2 Plus, they have these much more expensive cores, so in order to change nozzle sizes, you have to change the whole core. There is a remedy, which is a third party called 3D Solex, makes something called the hardcore nozzle. And I bought one of those, but it's 200 bucks, so it's another expensive add-on to an expensive printer. So keep that in mind if you think about changing nozzles with an Ultimaker 3. It works pretty well, but you do have to fiddle with it because it doesn't fit quite as well as the original ones, and I managed to make it work by putting an extra magnet in to the hot end door cover. It's kind of confusing if you want to use an alternate material. On the Ultimaker 2, the material settings were all in the printer, and you could change them and tune them for a particular filament. You could have a setting for Matter Hackers PLA or ColorFab PLA or some other ABS, and that made it very easy to just select the material from the menu. Now, some of the settings for a particular filament are not things that you can just do in that. You have to change the speed and things like that. So Ultimaker chose to go with more control from Cura. So pretty much you want to set all of the material settings in Cura. So if you have an unusual material that's not directly supported by Ultimaker, you have to set it there, and you have to be careful about how you do this. I only recently came to understand how that worked, and it's a little bit confusing because there's a set of basic settings that are supported by the firmware, and they control how the filament is loaded and unloaded and what temperatures it uses for that. So when you're creating a custom setting in Cura for a different material, you need to pick a material that's close to the one you want in terms of those properties of heating and cooling, and then use that. And then then you have to deal with the material overrides that the Cura software prompts you for. Okay, now I can't blame the Ultimaker3 for my hair loss, but there are some things that are pretty infuriating. One is that there are some kind of weird errors that happen every now and then, like unable to communicate with the print head. They go away when you turn off the printer and turn it back on, so I think there's still some bugs. I hope it's not an indication of hardware failure, but in general it works pretty well, but every once in a while I get these weird little startup errors, essentially. My biggest complaint is something that they can fix, which is the job management. It's primitive at best. It's inconsistent about what has to be done where. Some things have to be done on the printer. You have to abort the job on the printer, and then it keeps retrying it. If you say no, sometimes it doesn't actually cancel it, and sometimes it does. And so it's very frustrating. Sometimes it takes me longer to get a print going when I realize that there's been a mistake than it should. Also, having things that have to be done on the printer take away the joy of being able to print from the network. If the printer's like in a far corner of the office, then having to run back and forth to complete some particular operation. For example, some of the material overrides have to be completed on the Cura side. So I'm hoping that they'll make that more complete. They could have a complete job management, job queue thing in Cura. That would be really fantastic. And it would be nice to actually have some of those functions on the printer as well. I'd really like to see a live Z adjustment because it's a pain to have to re-level the bed each time you swap the build plate. Even though you haven't really changed the level of the bed, you've changed the height. And so it'd be simple to add a Z height adjustment to that. But you can sort of shortcut that by sort of rushing through the bed leveling procedure without touching the screws. You do the initial adjustment, and then you still also have to do the Z offset adjustment. But basically, you can rush through that and take care of it. So it's not a deal stopper there, but it's kind of annoying. Auto leveling, never really got it to work. You know, it would work for a couple prints, and then it would say, oh, it's out of range, too far for me to adjust. And it could be that there's something I don't completely understand, but I stopped even trying to do it because it doesn't really matter. Because once you level the bed, it just works. It's fine. So I wouldn't buy it for the auto leveling feature, but it's not a showstopper either. In conclusion, though, it is a really good printer. The quality is excellent. The support works really well. They keep making improvements. It's a very well supported printer. The community is fantastic. There's lots of really amazing people on the forums who are just happy to contribute their knowledge about 3D printing. So even if you're not in the market for an Ultimaker, go to the Ultimaker forums and check it out, because you can learn everything you need to know about printing. As long as you stay within the parameters of using the Ultimaker materials and you're just sort of doing run-of-the-mill printing, it's absolutely automatic. It detects the filament, all kinds of things like that. It's great. It's missing a few of the newer features like filament out detection and things like that. I think the S5 has that now, but overall, you know, it's a great printer. However, the minute you want to try to tune your prints or get something sort of outside of the box and you're doing something a little difficult to print, then you may find that its user friendliness is a barrier to doing that. Hopefully someone like Tinkernome, if you're listening, will come up with an alternative firmware for the Ultimaker3, and then we'll have all our tinkering back. But anyway, I think overall I'm pretty happy with it. It doesn't mean that I've stopped printing with my Ultimaker2. I still use it almost daily, and it's definitely a great workhorse. and there's no way that you could pry it from my hands. So I'm still going to keep my Ultimaker 2, and it really still is my favorite printer. However, whenever I design something that needs support, I go to the Ultimaker 3, and I'm less afraid of doing something with support because of that. And that's been very freeing for me creatively. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like it and subscribe to my channel. And as always, there's always more content on baldwisdom.com, and please come back next time, and we'll be talking more about making and 3D printing and electronics and all kinds of really fun stuff. See you next time.